Have you ever felt an unsettling presence in your own home? Imagine this. A person just like you or me embarks on a new chapter of their life. They move into an old house, one that creaks with each gust of wind and whispers tales of its long-forgotten past. At first, the peculiar ambience of the house is chalked up to its age, the gnarled woodwork, the antiquated architecture. After all, it's only natural to feel a little uneasy in a place so steeped in history, right? But then, there's something else. A feeling that's hard to pin down, like a shadow lurking just out of sight. Our protagonist tries to ignore it, bury it under the excitement of their new home. They convince themselves it's just the paranoia creeping in, the mind playing tricks in the dim light. Little did they realize their life was about to take an unexpected turn. The house, as it turned out, had some secrets of its own. It wasn't just the creaking floorboards or the drafts that seemed to come from nowhere that were unsettling. It was what began to emerge from the shadows. Hidden treasures, or perhaps more accurately, hidden nightmares, started to reveal themselves, as if the house itself was whispering its past into our ears. The first was an old photograph, sepia-toned with age, depicting a family that bore no resemblance to the previous owners. The faces were stoic, the eyes hollow, and there was an eerie sense of discomfort that lingered long after you looked away. Then came the letters, tucked away in the forgotten nooks and crannies of the house. They were penned with an elegant hand, but the words they bore were far from beautiful. They told stories of despair, of lives lost too soon, and of a darkness that seemed to permeate the very walls of the house. Each letter was a puzzle piece, hinting at a past that was darker and more complex than anyone could have imagined. As these unsettling discoveries accumulated, a sense of unease began to fester. The house, once a symbol of new beginnings, now felt more like a crypt, a mausoleum to a history that refused to stay buried. The air grew heavy, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for its secrets to be fully unearthed. Every creak, every whisper of wind, every flicker of shadow seemed to echo with the house's chilling history. The person began to feel less like a homeowner and more like an intruder, stepping on the graves of those who had once called this place home. As the days turned into weeks, the person started to realize that they were not alone. The house, it seemed, was alive with the echoes of its past, and it was not about to give up its secrets without a fight. The house was not just a house, it was a vessel carrying the weight of its dark past. The past is never truly gone, it lingers in the shadows. This is a notion that our protagonist is beginning to understand all too well. As the hours pass, so does the boundary between reality and the uncanny. Each moment becomes a struggle, a wrestling match with an unseen adversary. The whispers start as soft murmurs, barely audible, like a breath of wind rustling through the leaves. They're easy to dismiss, to attribute to the house settling or the hum of the refrigerator. But as the days turn into nights, the whispers grow louder, more insistent. They weave through the silence, a symphony of spectral voices that seem to have a life of their own. The whispers become a constant companion, an ever-present reminder of the unseen presence. Shadows, too, begin to play tricks. They stretch and morph, turning corners into dark, menacing figures. They dance across the walls, forming shapes that seem eerily human. The shadows are no longer mere absences of light. They have become entities, living things that breathe and move, that seem to watch with unseen eyes. Sleep becomes an elusive luxury. Each time our protagonist closes their eyes, the whispers become screams, the shadows become monsters. The darkness is no longer a comfort, but a canvas for their fears. And then, the items, the objects they found, those silent, inanimate witnesses to the past, they start to move. A book that was left on the table is now on the shelf. A photograph that was locked away in a drawer is now displayed on the mantel. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there. These objects, it seems, have taken on a life of their own, guided by the unseen presence. Our protagonist is now caught in a web of fear and paranoia, a prisoner in their own home. They're not alone, they can feel it, hear it, see it, but they can't escape it. They're trapped with the whispers and shadows as their only companions. In the dead of the night, they heard a whisper, "You're not alone." The truth often arrives uninvited. It's funny how fear and curiosity are two sides of the same coin. One pushes you away while the other pulls you closer. It's a dance of the mind that leads our person down a path they never thought they'd tread. They begin to delve into the history of the house, drawn by an irresistible urge to understand the whispers and shadows that have been their unwelcome companions. The house, it seems, has a past as dark and twisted as the shadows that dance in its corners. It was once a home filled with laughter, love, and warmth, a sanctuary for a family just like any other. But one night, as the moon hung high and the stars watched silently, the family vanished. No trace, no clues, just an empty house echoing with the silence of their absence. The mystery deepened, drawing our person further into its web. The whispers that seemed to float on the air, the shadows that danced on the walls. They were not figments of an overactive imagination. They were echoes from a past that refused to be forgotten, a past that was reaching out from beyond the veil of time, desperate to be heard. As the pieces of the puzzle started falling into place, the house's ominous aura began to make sense. It was not just a house, it was a vessel, carrying the weight of a story untold, a life unlived. The whispers were not just whispers, they were voices, crying out from the abyss of the unknown. The shadows were not just shadows, they were remnants, fragments of a time that had been cruelly snatched away. The realization was chilling, like a cold wind cutting through the silence of the night. Our person was not alone. They had never been alone. They were sharing their space with the unseen remnants of a life once lived. The house wasn't just a house, it was an echo chamber of a past life, resonating with the whispers and shadows of those who had once called it home. They were living with the unseen remnants of a life once lived. Sometimes, the unseen demands to be seen. It's an eerie truth, one that can twist the guts of even the bravest souls. The person, driven by a cocktail of fear and curiosity, made a choice to confront the presence that had been lurking in the shadows, dancing at the edges of perception. There's a moment of silence, of stillness, as if the very fabric of reality is holding its breath. Then a decision is made. "Show yourself," the person calls out into the darkness. It's a challenge, a demand, an invitation. In response, the house seems to shiver. The temperature plunges, a cold so intense it steals the breath away, makes the bones ache. It's a cold that has nothing to do with weather, and everything to do with the supernatural. It's a cold that seeps into the soul, that paralyzes the heart, and then a sound, soft at first, almost lost in the echoing silence. The innocent mirth of a child's laughter bouncing off the walls, filling the rooms, seeping into the cracks. It's a sound that should be comforting, joyful. But here, in this context, it's anything but. It's a sound that sends chills down the spine, that makes the hairs on the back of the neck stand on end. It's a sound that whispers of things best left unseen, of secrets hidden in the dark. The laughter grows louder, more insistent. It fills the house, it fills the mind. It's everywhere and nowhere. It's in the shadows, in the corners of the eye. It's behind you, it's in front of you, it's inside you. And then, as suddenly as it began, the laughter stops. The silence descends again, a heavy, suffocating blanket. But this time, it's not empty. This time it's filled with a chilling voice. A voice that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. A voice that seems to seep into the very soul. A voice that whispers, "We've been waiting for you." Be careful what you ask for, you might just get it. The person, now a mere shadow of their former self, consumed by terror, makes a desperate decision to abandon the house. They scramble to gather their belongings, their heart pounding like a drum in their chest. And then, as if the house itself had a cruel sense of humor, they discover an unexpected unsigned letter lying ominously on their bed. The handwriting, shaky, as if written in a rush, held a chilling message. "You can't leave us. We won't let you." The words echoed in the room, a sinister whisper that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. A cold shudder ran down their spine as the reality of their situation sank in. They were trapped. As the person stood frozen in fear, the door slammed shut. The voice whispered once more, "Welcome home." The chilling conclusion to their tale was only just beginning.